Hello, hello, hello. Subtitles are working. Hello, hello, friend JC Darcy. You are perceived. Hello, Hogan. Nice to have you here, my friend. And for those who are watching in general, or lurking, or seeing this later, hello, my name is Fiona. I use she, her pronouns, and this, whatever this is Too Long Didn't Read Tabletop RPGs, in which I spend an hour or two reading an RPG that has caught my fancy, whether it be from the big bookshelf of doom, or from the dusty archives of the Google folder. Hope you guys are doing well. Let me know if the audio is a little bit much. I can see the desktop's a little bit high, so I'm going to just turn it down a teeny tiny bit. We'll see if that does anything. There we go. Hello, Sam. Hello, Sam Sires. How are you doing, my friend? How are we doing? It has been a very warm couple of days here in my part of the world. I went out on a bike ride on Sunday, my first solo bike ride, and overall went really well. You'll be glad to know. I managed to cycle 3/4 around a circuit I wanted to do, and then I got stopped because the stupid place I wanted to get to literally would have been like 10 minutes till home. They'd sort of sealed off the walkway or the sidewalk or whatever you want to call it here, and I would have had to go on the interstate. I think I'm not entirely sure. My partner said I could have done it, but I was like, it's up a slight hill and I don't want to die, so I had to cycle all the way back. So it went from roughly about a half an hour proposed bike ride to an hour to 2 hours. It was very good. I very much enjoyed it. But then I was going to try and do it yesterday, and it was too hot. I've never been in a situation where it's been too warm to do anything. So I'm very grateful for the slight aircon I've got in here. But yes, and last night I went to another... my partner is very big into Magic the Gathering, and we went to a draft at the local game store for Modern Horizons 3, which I appreciate. So most people here, they're like, look, just talk about TTRPGs, that's all you're about. And I'm like, yes, I agree. And I managed to pull, in one of the packs, a $17 Mythic card, which I was very excited for, and I managed to actually draw what I thought was a good deck. Got completely creamed, and I came dead last, but I did draw some good cards. I just can't draft. I can't play any decks because I don't know about Magic, but there you go. Anyway, that's how I've been. I hope you guys have been all right otherwise. Today, friends, we are going to be looking at our last best hope. Now, you might have noticed, some of you were more keen-eyed about it, that I did write our best last hope, or the last best hope. For some reason, I just can't get the idea that it is our last best hope for some reason. So I'm struggling with that one. So if I mispronounce the title constantly throughout this, believe me, it is not any ill intention. It's just my brain not getting grasp it. JC Darcy said, drafting is such a separate skill. I never got any good at that. It's supposed to be fun, right? And this is big. I actually enjoy the part of drafting, very much so. It's the fact that you have to do it in an hour and then build a deck within the same hour and then face off against however many people who have also done the same thing. And mostly the other people who have played Magic more often than I have actually have an idea of what they're looking for, even if their stuff is really janky. And I'm just there going there was a meme that came out, my partner sent to me, which was there's a lot of words. It just says anything longer than 5 lines doesn't have any effect. And I was like, yeah, because it gets to a point where the writing is so small. As we discovered with this stream, anything that's too small, I'm like, oh, you need to enhance it. It needs to be straightforward. I get stuff like vigilance and haste mixed up all the time. The thing is though, I know with practice, I'll get better, and that's all good. What I don't like, and maybe it's a very a femme or a female thing, which is vastly stereotyping perhaps, but I hate wasting time of other people's time who've come to play and do well, and then they have to face off against me who's not very good and asking for help. Now I know I should always be asking for help, and I do, and 9 times out of 10 it is the people are very patient and it's really nice, but I hate I've done it several times now and I'm still not any better. I should be better at this. That's why I stick to Commander, even though I find Commander infinitely more difficult. I just stick to my Doctor Who decks and that's it. But I was very pleased with the cards I drew last night. For some reason people were going for red or white, which turns out to be an aggressive deck, and I love aggressive decks because it's very straightforward. You put a card down and you should attack. You don't need any of these fancy dice or combos. I just can't get my head around it. So anyway, I was like, oh, I just so happened to draw a deck I could actually figure out what was going on, even though I got absolutely creamed. So that's all good. Anyway, enough about Magic. That's not what the stream's are. Today we're looking at Our Last Best Hope, which is a game about a crew of people on a mission to save humanity from a terrible crisis. So if you love your Armageddon films, you love your Sunshine, that's what some of the inspiration has been brought for this game. As always, top of this stream, I am not a game designer, she says, quotation marks. I run a lot of games. I read a lot of games as well, so I think I have an idea of what works, what doesn't work. Incidentally, though, Maybe I should get the link for it because I think it was a very good post. Uh, Quinn's Quest. The I was gonna say the guy Quentin, this guy. You probably have heard about him if you're in the tabletop RPG community. He reviews RPG games and has done some very good stuff recently about covering RPG games. And he released today a patron post, which I'm desperately trying to find. There we go. Which is free to look at because it reviews 2 games that he will never be able to review on his channel due to time constraints. And what he does, which I do think is very admirable, is that he likes to run games through before reviewing them. And I think it's absolutely admirable if you've got the time and the privilege to have game groups that can do that. But that gets a bigger experience of it. Anyway, he reviewed 2 games called Teeth and Swithers. I think that's how you pronounce it. And he says how great they are, but unfortunately he's not been able to give them the full review because he's just not got time. And talked a bit about Burnout as well, which I thought was really interesting. Anyway, I'm going to put it in the chat. If this will work, I don't know. But I would absolutely recommend it. It is a free... his post for this one is... The content is free for this particular post because he wanted to give advice to... the advice he has here for the game designers are all things that he found interesting. He doesn't want that to be blocked off behind a paywall, essentially. Which I thought was actually quite interesting. Because I think, if you've got a critique or something like that, it shouldn't necessarily be behind a paywall. So, that's what I kind of do here. And sometimes I found... many weeks later, I'll have the game designer comment on these. Going, oh, thank you for reviewing it. I agree with this, or oh, I'm not so sure, or explain to me. And I very much appreciate being corrected on things because obviously this is just a first impressions or something. That's why I wanted to say at the top. So obviously, I'm not a game designer. I just review games and give a critique. So basically, the whole point of this is to say what I like about it, what, if anything, I think could be improved, which again is incredibly biased and definitely may not hold any salt at all, and if there's anything with accessibility, because I do think we should look at accessibility, certainly with the digital files of games, because that often is the way that most people will read the game nowadays, because people can't afford necessarily to buy the physical books because they cost a lot of money to print, and also they bloody heavy to travel around with and to store compared to digital, which you can again share quite freely with other people. But also, is it screen readable? Can we make the character sheets digital, etc. So it's just little things like that, which is just something I like to do because I was a course designer at university for many years. The other thing was that obviously I don't know anything about this game going in, so just look after yourselves. If there's anything comes up, obviously I'll try and mention it on stream, any content warnings, etc. But if you're like, no, this game's not for me, you're more than welcome to tap out. I will not be offended if you come back later and then tell me why or all that sort of thing. You never need to justify the game's not for you, the game's not for you. Those are the 3 things. Also, I'm not sponsored by by the designers of these games. I have played a lot of is it Magpie? Yeah, Magpie games. I've played quite a few. For me, I know them best for Bluebeard's Bride, which is an absolutely cracking Powered by the Apocalypse game, which I think everyone should play actually. And they've done stuff like the latest game they've got coming up is Rapscallion, which we've covered here on this channel. I think we did cover Bluebeard's Bride as well. Urban Shadows, Cartel is the other one I remember them for as well. And Root. They mostly specialise in particular Powered by the Apocalypse systems, which is really great. Masks, of course, Masks was the other one as well. Masks and New Generation. So there you go. So again, I do think they've got stuff for everyone. Oh, did they do? Oh, they did Avatar as well. I'm doing very well, thank you, Icky. Nice to see you here. So let us dive straight into it. So I'm just trying to find the actual site. So so today what we always do in the stream, so to say at the top in case you're new here, what we do is we look at the the main copy of the game before we go into the PDF. We'll go through as much of the PDF as we can, saying what we like about it, etc., etc. But we might not cover all of it, and we might skip parts of it depending on what we have time for. Ideally, what I look for in a when we're reading these things is what the main game mechanics, what if anything about the setting, maybe a bit of character creation as long as that's not too much. Again, with Powered by the Apocalypse, usually they have something called playbooks, so that you get a sense of a feel of a character or an archetype of some sort. We don't need to go into too much detail about that unless, and again, I encourage people to look at it if they would like to. And then, anything additional about it. So there you go. Enough of me waffling away. Let me go to the other thing. Hello, Super Dylan. Hello. How you doing, my friend? You're just in time. We're just about to start. First of all, I'm going to try and move this thing over so we can see. There you go. First of all, what a great cover. Isn't it lovely? I love this one. So our Last Best Hope by Magpie Games. Main author is Mark Diaz Truman with Marissa Kelly. Both of them are the co-owners or co-founders of Magpie Games. And I certainly know Marissa Kelly for being one of the game designers behind Bluebird's Bride, and Mark has done the Cartel, and all of them together. Obviously, I've worked on lots of games, but those are the two I know them for. I will zoom in a little bit because, good lord, that is writing is so tiny, isn't it? It is a platinum bestseller, which is quite good. It was released, 2012, so well over this. Oh, I love that kind of. Yeah, tell you what, let me do a big version of it. How great is that? So an RPG to save the world. What I will say is that there is an expansion to it right now. She says, oh, I can't find it. That is typical. Let me. We'll go to. Tell you what, we'll go to Magpie Games, and then see, it's not one of their big games. It's not been put up here with the top ones. So again, maybe it's one of their earlier games, perhaps. I wanted to see if I could find. So there it is. There. I wanted to see if they had the expansion somewhere. So I did have it before. Yes, in bundle. Yes, there is a bundle. Oh, she says, can't find anything. There you go. A view bundle. There we go. So yes, there we go. So we have in this bundle, which you can save a lot. So you have the expansion, our Last Best Hope expansion book, which gives you extra few things. Maybe if we've got time, we'll have a quick look at that as well. That's roughly about 70 pages, I think. And then the We Are Dust, which is a collection of short stories inspired by our Last Best Hope, which I think is great, actually. You know, again, one thing I do love about RPGs, it's something I haven't done myself, but it inspires when you play these very personal characters and you create stories together. It makes you want to go write more stories about them if you know, for whatever reason the campaign falls apart, or like you're like, oh, I want to really write a particular scene, and obviously it encourages people to do fan fiction of their characters, and I think that's always a great thing. Creative writing is something that should be applauded and admired, and you don't have to create writing for anyone but yourself. So I love the fact that there is a collection of short stories that have been inspired by this RPG from loads of players. So I thought, again, something just a little bit different. So I thought I'd mention that here because I was like, oh, it's really good. Siftina says, I love solo games to fill the hole in my heart after a campaign is over. I love is over. It's so good. I agree. Yeah, I think we spoke about it a little bit here. Like, what I love about solo games is being able to build a character that I then could take into a campaign. But I like what you talked about, the other way around. Like, I spoke to Sam Lee, Death of the Author, about their upcoming solo tarot card game, about this idea of having a character that is fighting against the agency of the person. And they talked about how they meant it to be like new characters, but a lot of the time in the playtest they talked about how some people would actually use characters from their old, say, D&D campaign, and then at the end, whenever there was a confrontation with the author, it was like, well, why did you make those choices at certain points of the campaign? And I thought that was really great. Again, just a different way of looking at a story and stuff. So, I'm 100% with you there. Because sometimes you don't want to leave the world. You're not ready as a player to leave the world, even though the story may seem to be over. So I love that. So let me zoom in a little bit so we can actually read. Oh gosh, I don't know about you guys, but my eyes. There we go. I do like how it's quite responsive, this particular website. It has got more and more responsive Drive for RPG. I would say, obviously, please go check out Magpie Games, the actual website. So I just thought it'd be easy just a quick look here. The one thing I would say is that our Last Best Hope, it's out of stock, the physical version, but there is going to be a restock later this summer, I believe, maybe an updated version for 2024 on their website. So keep a lookout for that. If this is something that you're interested in, go check out. I don't believe you can get the PDF or any PDFs from their website. I think it links to Drive for RPG. That's why I'm using it today. Anyway, all that out of the way, let's get reading. So, Our Last Best Hope is a game about a crew of people on a mission to save humanity from a terrible crisis. It's a tabletop game for 3 to 5 players that takes about 2 hours to play. That's quite short, actually. If you've got 5 hours, that's pretty good. During the game, you and your friends will play through a classic disaster movie like Sunshine, Deep Impact, The Core, or Armageddon, where your characters are the stars. I think, presumably stars of the film, not literal stars. Anytime I think of Sunshine, I might think of stars dying. Each game is unique as your group confronts a new crisis with a new set of characters and a new plan to save Earth. Whilst playing Our Last Best Hope, you might launch into space to stop a meteor from destroying all life on Earth, drill into the centre of the Earth to restart its molten core. Oh, that'd be quite fun. Or navigate a zombie-filled cities to stop a nuclear holocaust. Regardless of the crisis, you and your crew are our last best hope. Roll credits. It does not require a GM. Interesting. It's very different from a Powered by the Apocalypse game, I would say. nor is there any prep time required before the game starts. Inspired by role-playing games like Fiasco, which we've covered on here, Polaris, I've not heard of that one. Our last Best Hope is designed to be played as a one-shot epic game that will leave your gaming group with incredible stories. Nice, it sort of ticks all the boxes there. Oh, hello, Dead Toothbrush. How are you doing, my friend? Yes, you've just in time. We just started, but yeah, looking at like an epic sort of save the world RPG. There's a couple of things coming to mind. So A is 2 hours. It says stories contained finishes in 2 hours. It is definitely a one-shot with epic proportions, and no GM and no prep time. That's kind of like a win-win-win in my books. So interesting. Excellent. So rough page count is 124. It says on here. Again, like I said, we'll go through it as we can. And I will say it is 2012, so over a decade old. So again, maybe some of the language in here might not be used anymore or anything. I'll just give a heads up with that. I should say it's roughly, I've got it here in obviously UK money. Well, it's £8, so about $10, etc., which is not bad. I don't think for a PDF RPG. I mean, certainly one that's been out for a little while. So yeah, so we're just gonna check it out from there. I swear to God, if Bob shows up in this game, we don't talk about Universalists. Not after last time. But yes, I don't want to get anyone's hopes up so high for this, because obviously, again, hope is in the title. But I do get the sense that Magpie games, they are very well written or have good thematic things and are very careful with their themes. Certainly, when we looked at Blueberry's Bride, or when at least I've read through Blueberry's Bride, it's very been like, here are all the content warnings, here's all the stuff. And yeah, sure, that's a bit of a later game than this one, and this might have been one of their earlier games. But I get the sense that it should be, she says, Touchwood, not as bad as the 20-year-old game we looked at a couple of weeks ago. All right, let us just try to work out what I'm doing. You never know. There we go, get rid of that. And there we go for this. Just I was trying to look at it myself. So yeah, so this is what the inside copy is. It is a shame, I will say, this PDF does not have the cover of it on. It just has the inside art of it. It's fine. But like the expansion does have it. Look at that expansion. I really like that. Not only the sort of like the silhouette thing, but like the texture of that image is so good. It's just, I think, just a shame. Again, maybe, you know, in the old days, she said, quotation marks, where I don't know if it was maybe a printing thing or something like that, but when you'd get PDF, it wouldn't have the cover in the PDF. It would be like a separate image. I'm not entirely sure why. If people know, let me know. Here we go. So, she says, our last best hope, an RPG to save the world. And we've got some art by Marissa. All right. Yeah, so there you go, 2012. There's a film 2012, isn't there? A disaster film. There you go. I've got dedication as well with all the thanks, which is lovely. What I do like, though, is... Oh, first of all, I've got a quote. So, our sun is dying. Mankind face extinction. 16 months ago, I, Robert Capa, and a crew of 7 left Earth frozen in a solar winter. Our mission? Reignite the sun before it's too late. Welcome to the Icarus 2. I should really watch Sunshine again. It was I really enjoyed that film. And then we have this, and this is this. I'm a big fan of this. I've said this before. I love when we keep stuff immersed in the world. You know, in terms of terminology, like, you know, game master is fine, but it's nice to be like the lore keeper and the players are wrestlers and all that sort of thing. What I like they've done here is for the Kickstarter, they've put like, who supported the Kickstarter, I guess depending on their pledge levels, etc. They've got different levels of stuff. So we've got support staff, we've got mission control staff, core crew, loads of people, supply depot, mission specialists. Warrant officer, supply. So there's a captain there as well. Like, again, I don't know the context to like what level that would have been quite nice to actually put like, oh, they, I guess, donated, and I don't know, just to give some context to it, because I quite like that, because it makes sense that something like this, and certainly like a mission of such epic world-like proportions, does require a big crew, a big community of people coming together. I will say, the one that sticks out here is this name here, Ryan the Bastard Percival. I should really call him. perfect art image. Oh, you know what? I always forget. No, no alt art, which is fine. Again, not that I would expect it from a PDF that is over 10 years old, but it's always nice to check. All right, so we've got this table of contents. We've got 1, 2. Oh, that's a very long chapter 1, isn't it? But broken up a little bit. It's just trying to find. Again, it's more like an index. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then play sets as well. Oh, nice. We got play sets. That's quite interesting. So we've got 4 big chapters in total. Again, we'll go through it a bit. We'll do the intro. We've got story points. So that's interesting. And the quick start guide. Always good. We'll try at least chapter 1, and we'll see how far we get with the playbooks. Again, I can see here we've got a soldier, we've got an engineer, scientist, doctor. It seems only 4, and then create unconventional characters. Interesting. Skip the mission. And what's in chapter 2? So it looks like it's played into 2 acts. At least we've got playing Act 1, the choice, playing Act 2, etc. And then consequence tables. All right, interesting. We'll see how this goes. All right, how are we doing? Let's see that. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, just because even my eyes are going to be straining a little bit against this. So, earlier this year, I wrote the first messy draft of Our Last Best Hope, the Game Chef 2012 competition, a yearly writing challenge for game designers. After spending a week at PAX East watching gamers play one-shots of all genres and types, I was primed for the core ingredient, last chance, of this year's Game Chef. When I sat down to work on my submission, I held 2 thoughts in my mind. I wanted the game to be quickly accessible to exactly those gamers I saw flying through games at PAX, and I wanted it to be epic. What emerged as the first draft was solid enough to place as a runner-up in the competition, but I immediately set about working and reworking the game to make it flow better from scene to scene, to bring forward the themes of sacrifice and ability. I dropped the game master from the equation, realizing that players do not need me getting in the way of having a great time. I kept some elements like the death cards and the threats, but added new features like touchstones, flashbacks, and a lot more structure. The year before, I'd put up my previous Game Chef entry, the Plays the Thing. Oh, we're doing the Plays the Thing this week. Oh, that's exciting. On Kickstarter, and our backers helped us reach the funding to make the game a reality. In the early playtest, I had a feeling that maybe we could do a similar success with Our Last Best Hope. With some prodding from my better half, Marissa Kelly, I decided that we would put up the game on Kickstarter and see what response we got. And once again, Marissa and I put our noses to the grindstone to prepare a Kickstarter of which we could be really proud of. And once again, the response to the Kickstarter blew us away. We kicked in just about 30 hours. Has Kickstarter been really around for more than a decade? It feels like it came about like 5 years ago, but maybe I've just been completely out of the loop. We kicked in just about 30 hours, a little more than a day after we put the project up, and we went on to raise more than 400% of our goal. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. We not only funded this core book of Our Last Best Hope, but the companion book of hacks and additional settings, and We Are Dust, a short story anthology. Marissa and I were floored and honoured that our backers were so eager to help us make all of this project a reality. Since the Kickstarter closed, things have been hectic here at Magpie Games. We've been ordering dice, sorting stickers, and finalising the text of the game so that we can get everything out of the door in time for Gen Con this August. And we could not be happier. Every last patch, sticker, and flash drive that comes in the door is an awesome reminder of how our backers have been and how lucky we are able to make games. A flash drive as a reward. Wow. I'm guessing it has like music or something on. The writing process has been intense and challenging. I wanted this book to be an amazing resource, but it is incredibly rewarding to be able to spend my time working on a game that I love. So thank you. I think it is easy to underestimate the change that Kickstarter brought to artists like Marissa and myself. Just a few months ago, this game was just a glimmer in my mind and a project that could have stewed for years without moving forward towards publication. But when we saw the response to the Kickstarter and knew people were excited and ready to play the game, we were able to focus our efforts and make time on making it amazing and getting it out the door. Kickstarter did more than deliver the funds that we needed to make this game. It connected us with an audience that made making the game a pleasure every step of the way. My hope is that you and your friends can crack open this book Sit down with a few dice and tokens and tell the kind of story that leaves you breathless at the end, stunned that you could care so much about the characters you just created a few hours ago. The themes here are big. The world is at stake. And I hope that when you play it that you'll find the same beauty in humanity that I have found. The same sense that within each of us lies the potential for greatness in the pursuit of the common good. For me, this book is an This book is an affirmation of all that humanity can do, and a reminder that it's crucial that each one of us remember that we are our brother's keeper. After all, the world isn't going to save itself. You'll have to get involved sooner or later. I hope you choose sooner. Wow, interesting. I mean, again, Kickstarter has had its ups and downs. Let's not beat around the bush here. If we're thinking of the NFT stuff and blockchain and all that sort of thing. So there are other platforms available. I think it's right though. I think similar to how Twitter was for people, it was a way to suddenly, everyone was using it, and so people were like, oh, exciting. And then obviously bad stuff happens, and then you're like, right, let's see what other platforms work. And we've got other amazing crowdfunders like Indiegogo, like actual Backer Kit having something now, GoFundMe, all these things. So I do think it's nice that there's a plethora of sites. It's just about trying to market it in a way people can get to it and play it and be able to give money and stuff. I do find, I mean, again, I think for me now, one thing I, as someone who loves RPGs, I will tend to get the PDF rather than invest in like the physical book. I certainly don't necessarily want, unless the game really speaks to me in some way. If the dice are needed for the game, then I'd hope there's a dice roller, but that's fine. Patches are always good, stickers I always like. Flash drive is an interesting one. Because obviously that feels a bit outdated now. But posters, all that sort of thing. But t-shirts, I remember t-shirts used to be and hats and stuff. And you're like, I don't need those things necessarily, unless they've got a really cool design. So, anyway. So, excuse me. If you're brand new to role-playing games, I'm really glad you picked up this book. If you know anything about Magpie Games, the company I founded with Marissa, my partner, illustrator, and girlfriend, you should know that we are incredibly interested in bringing new people into gaming. We love role-playing, and we're eager to share it with you. But what is it? What is role-playing? In short, it's improvisational acting with rules. I mean, improv does have rules. You just can't make everything up. You and your friends create characters from your own imaginations, and the game gives you some rules for how those characters can interact with each other and with the setting. In this game, your characters are a team of incredibly brave people who have volunteered to stop a terrible crisis from destroying humanity. You will play these characters the way actors do a read-through of a script, sitting around a table, narrating what your character is doing, and saying these things to think that your characters would say during the story. I mean, I feel like that's a little bit not accurate, because obviously you don't have a script, whereas actors will have a script. So, and I would say that actors, you can be an improviser and an actor, but actors, unless they do, I don't know, actors I always think like they need to have the story, they need to have the script so they know what to say, whereas improvisation, you don't need that. So I think it's just the way improvisers do a scene, but it's fine. Again, it's trying to make it like relatable, isn't it? What was I? Same things we do. In many ways, Our Last Best Hope is also a bit like a board game. One player plays the banker, handing out important tokens the players have earned, whilst the person who knows most about the game helps keep things running. No one person is in charge of the story, and there is no game master. Everyone playing the game has equal responsibility to make the game interesting and fun. As with most board games, you will not need to prep anything before you start playing. You absolutely should read the rules of a board game. Otherwise, you have the awkward 30 minutes at the beginning where you wait for someone else to read it to you. I can't, you absolutely, with board games, you need to read the rules. Because otherwise, you're just sat there miserable for the first 30 minutes until you get to play. The first 30 minutes or so of the game is coming up with a setting in which you and your friends will play the game. Role-playing is... Oh, you guys can't see that. There we go. Role-playing is Cowboys and Indians for adults. Okay. Everyone knows that we're just pretending, and it doesn't make the drama any less real. You and your friends will laugh and cry and hope and dream, all because you will create characters who will take on a life of their own within the game. A great role-playing session, like a great movie or book, makes you forget about the rest of the world, and it is bittersweet when the story comes to a close. Yeah, 100%. That is so true. Closure is such a big thing, I think, in games. And bittersweet, yeah. In our last best hope, that close will determine the fate of all humanity, all with the pathos and drama that comes with a potential apocalypse. Ooh. It's an interesting hand, I'll be honest. Does anyone else's hand look like that? I mean, I'll say this, I can't draw hands, so that's fine. Coming in a bit late, but hello. Hello, Kieran. Nice to have you here, my friend. Not late at all. You're right on time. We've just started, so do not worry. We're going through our best last hope, which is sort of almost like a saving the world from a big crisis of some sort. So inspired by Sunshine, Armageddon, that sort of like big disaster movies, things like that. But as we discovered from the copy, it's a powered by the apocalypse game with no game master and no prep. 3 to 5 players in under 2 hours. Which I don't know about you. I'm interested, but will that work? The 3 big questions we have here. So back in 2005, game designer Jared Sorensen, the creator of Inspectorus and Free Market, posted some interesting notes on design on his live journal. God, who remembers live journal? I think mine's still out there somewhere. In essence, Sorensen made the point that games that strive to be about something, that build systems that reinforce an experience the designer wishes the players to have, are much better games. In that post, he posed 3 questions, 3 big questions, that I believe are crucial for any designer to answer about his or her game. I first encountered these questions when I read my first indie game, House of the Blooded by John Wick. I was stunned by how perfectly the questions communicated what John wanted to do and how they challenged him to think critically before putting pen to paper. About what emotions he wanted the game to evoke in the players. In the hopes that I could offer the same clarity, here are my answer to the big query of our last best hope. Ooh, I like that. I am a big fan of, again, I think we said this before, like vibes. We want to know the vibes of the game. And so having these questions and then just answering at the top makes sense, absolutely. That idea definitely excites me. Interested to see how it's executed. Hello, hi Fiona. Is it morning there? Hello, Hatchling Games. It is currently 11:30 in the morning. So yes, it is indeed. I'm 6 hours behind you, but not the world's biggest fan of his or hers. Yes, I will say again. Sorry, I didn't mention this before. This game originally came out in 2012. So again, some legacy content perhaps at the top, but the physical copy sort of is being restocked in the summer, this summer. So maybe there'll be an update on that sense. But yeah, I agree. Again, the language stuff, I'm gonna forgive it a little bit because it is over a decade old as well, but not as bad as Universalist. Oh, Bob. Right. Okay. So, what is my game about? So, our last best hope is about the heroic sacrifice in the face of an impossible burden. Oh gosh, so I keep jumping around there. In it, you and your friends will portray a team of people who must risk everything to save humanity from a terrible crisis. So I like the fact, again, humanity, capital, and a crisis is a capital C as well. You will play soldiers, doctors, engineers, and scientists who have ventured out into space or deep within the Earth's core to an attempt to keep our species alive. The best humanity has to offer as our last best hope. Roll credits. As the noose tightens, you and your team will have to struggle against threats that attempt to derail the mission, the increasingly stressful burden that you have taken on, and the crisis itself always looming at the edge of your minds. So first thing I want to say right now, something I noticed when we did the D-sanction on Friday, is that clearly these words here, so humanity, crisis, it was mission and threats, they're probably going to be quite important game elements, or at least terminology. Would be nice to have this in bold, perhaps, because that's what Desanctum did. They bolded a lot of important terms that were put in the glossary. Maybe too much of that. At least then you're like, a crisis. That's the aim of the game. So it's trying to give it so again, just in terms of layout and maybe formatting, just maybe bold, make it bold or underline it in some way, just emphasizing that's what it is. Not all of you will live. Some of you may die. That is a sacrifice I am willing to make. Not all of you will live. Not all of you will succeed. But if we are lucky, humanity will go on. In this game, each and every character has the potential to rise to greatness, whilst the fate of humanity is on the line. One thing I'll note as well, we're already on page 22, we're getting at it quite a rate. The reason I think we're doing that at quite a rate is that it's bigger text and it's not double columned. Because good lord, anytime I see double column, my head hurts. So, the second question, how does my game do that? My game embraces the themes of heroic sacrifice by forcing players to make tough choices about characters in which they are emotionally invested. At the start of the game, you and your friends will build a network of relationships, secrets, and fears that will help define not only your characters, but also how they relate to each other. Since our last best hope has no game master, these relationships are central to gameplay. Your fellow players will be your primary antagonists, challenges, and sources of conflict. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. That's quite fun. Other characters may occasionally interfere with your character's plans, but you will all have to work together to defeat the crisis. In addition to producing challenging and dynamic relationships, the game will also force you to make tough choices about the mission, giving you the chance to make progress on saving humanity, but demanding that you pay the price to do so. Your characters, strong men and women who have sacrificed much for the opportunity to stop the crisis, as if it's a privilege, will have to go further, perhaps even sacrificing themselves to finish the job. And then the final big question, what behaviours does my game reward and punish? Our Last Best Hope rewards players for exploring their relationships with other characters and engaging with their own character's backstory through flashbacks. At the start of play, each group generates a web of interesting and sometimes oppositional relationships that give players story points when they come up in play. Later in the game, players can spend story points to improve their die rolls, defeating challenges and keeping the mission on track. Since story points are used up to fight off these threats to the mission, players are strongly incentivized to continue to reach out to each other through roleplay, to humanize their experience in the game, claim more story points, and push the story forward. Yes, that's always the more interesting thing about stuff. It's about, really, when you go and watch these films, sure, do you remember, 2012, the film was, there was obviously climate change film, or any, the world ending sort of thing. Do you remember, oh, God, there was a big snowstorm, etc.? Yeah, but what you really remember is the relationship between the two characters. In 2012, that's the one where they're like, I need to go find my son. He's somewhere. We'll try and find him. He's in America. I'm in the UK. And we'll try and find these people. And coming across people who have different philosophies to you, it's just always more interesting, more engaging, because that's what people can relate to. Hashi says, Kieran, it is interesting to see how RPG design has become much more accessible and inclusive over time. Absolutely, yeah. As I said, this has been published by Magpie Games, which I do think is one of the more inclusive gaming companies in recent times. I think all of their Powered by the Apocalypse systems, like I was saying before, they have really big vibes, and then they're very good at their content warnings, certainly for Bluebeard's Bride, or talking about difficult topics. And I think, like I said, I think this is one of their earlier games, so it's just something to note in that sense. But like I said, I think it sounds like they're updating it for this year, or at least bringing it back in a physical form this year, so maybe there'll be an update. And it'll be interesting to see. Again, I'm always a big fan of people going back to their work and reviewing it and making any tweaks should there need any tweaks. Like it said in the intro, that Mark had submitted this to the Game Chef competition, and it became a runner-up, but then he was like, well, I'm going to go through it and reread it and rework it, because I enjoyed this game so much. So it's always worth, again, it's the play testing element of it as well, but always review your own work, and if it excites you, you want to make it better, absolutely do so. Okay. In addition, Players can also generate a mechanical advantage for the entire group by dying. According to a death card. Well, okay, again, maybe content warnings for that. Like, you could die for this. Each player draws at the start of the game. Oh, I see, like predicting stuff. Unlike role-playing games where death is a consequence to be avoided, Our Last Best Hopes gives the players the opportunity to die in a way that saves the mission and helps the team in the future. Okay. What was it? The players? Oh, what? Since players can always frame scenes as flashbacks, dead characters still contribute to the dramatic narrative. These deaths, heroic sacrifices that show just how brave and strong humanity can be, are the backbone of gameplay. The source of tales your group can tell long after the session has ended. Oh, okay. Right. I think maybe it was just worded a little bit differently. I was like, I would like to know. But if you are upfront in that expectation going, hey, one of the cool mechanics of this is that if your character dies, you can still keep playing and influence the story. It's like in social deduction games like Blood on the Clock Tower. I love that. I think that's a big fan of that. But again, you just need to just check with people at the beginning. Is that something that your character would like to do? In that sense. Inspire Elves doesn't have an index. Everyone can improve in these areas, like you say. What second editions and reprints are for? Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I go back to like here, like this for me, I find this incredibly overwhelming. But obviously, this is to tell us where we can find certain things, right? And each section is roughly about a page or so. But that to me should be an index of the like separate chapters, rather than chapter 1 being well over like 50 pages. And it's just about setting up and stuff like that. I mean, we're getting through it at quite a rate, but instantly I'm like, no. But yeah, and I know it's again, you learn by doing these things. I think I'm always a big fan of people going, next time we'll do this, include this, because you have to do that. That's the way things work, and especially with PDFs and stuff. I know that erratas are a thing and all that sort of thing, but exactly as you said, that's what second editions and reprints are for. So we did that. All right, let's go to possibly the main mechanic. Well, sure, we'll find out. What are story points? So simply put, story points are the out-of-character currency for Our Last Best Hope. Tokens that you can spend to do whatever you want to do in this game. If your character wants to triumph over a threat, you will need to spend story points to buy dice and hope that the outcome of the roll is good enough to counteract the threat and save the mission. So it's not like I'm going to throw all my story points at it and we succeed. You buy the dice, and they could still fail as a result. I see. So for example, if you wanted to use one of your roll abilities, perhaps you're using your medical knowledge to reinvigorate a teammate, that will cost you a story point. Since Our Last Best Hope is GM-less, each player has to earn their points through playing the story cards. See this on page 50. Descriptions of their characters' relationships, fears, and secrets that can be used to spark roleplay. Whenever players use story cards during a scene, they can hand an appropriately themed story card over to claim 2 story points, trading in the card for points. That's why it does feel a bit more like Monopoly. There is always a banker that gives out the story points. When the story cards are used up, however, there are very few ways to bring in more story points into play. You and your group will have to make do with what you have. Your resources will grow thin as you get nearer to defeating the crisis. Will you have enough strength at the end of the game to save humanity? Oh, I like that idea. Like, do you hold back and risk losing some of the initial sort of battles along the way in order to really be able to succeed at the end? Or, it's like pick or choose. Like, do I want to succeed in this and get more information? Or do I want to just hope for the best and spend them all at the end? I quite like those choices myself, but I know that not everyone's a fan of them. Notes on dice notation. So throughout this book, I use the following notation to keep track of dice. A 5 on a white die, so an example here, so 5W. A 3 on a black die is 3B. There will be times during the game when you need to add up all the dice in a pool to discover an outcome, with white and black dice cancelling each other out. Oh god, this is actual maths. Okay. So here we've got 5 white and 3 white, so that's 8, and then 2 black and 3 black, that's 5, so 8 take 5 is 3 white is left over. I understand. Okay, and the same on the second example here, we've got 3 white, 2 white, and then that equals 5 white, and then here 2 and 3, 3 and 2, 5 black, and get a 0. These roles can be confusing at first, but will quickly grow familiar after you try them out. What I do like is that, I mean, again, there's no alt text on this, but like here, they've already written that out. So you know that notation is already read accessible. So then here, therefore, after this, you can understand what this means as well. Interesting. Yeah, I think so. I think this is actually a really good notation. It's a good example. Maybe not the best example of accessibility, but we now understand notation, so you can follow along a little bit easier because they've explained what this is in text format as well as using icons. Ooh, I was going to press the wrong page there. So what's included here? In order to help you, it's in capitals. In order to help you play Our Last Best Hope, I've included the following things here. So mission prep, play instructions, QR codes. Does that QR code still work? Let's have a look. See. Ooh. Oh, I got a Magic the Gathering notification there. That won't help me. Opening Chrome. Oh. It just leads me to the Magpie website, unfortunately. Yeah, no results found. That's a shame. But again, would not surprise me because this game is over 10 years old. So that's a shame. So play instructions, QR codes are a quick, easy way to learn more about the game. Each QR code is tied to a video that explains some quick tips, less than a minute, to show how to set up and play the game. Oh, that's a real shame. Oh no. Actually, I wonder if this still works then. Hang on. You can download a QR reader or smartphone or watch them, or input the URL found on the code below. Our Last Best Hope. All right, I'm gonna try and see if I want to see if that actually works. If it does, that's great. I will say, obviously, I couldn't click on the thing. No, unfortunately, it's not on their website. Oh, that's such a big shame. Oh, I'm a big fan of having like video explanations and stuff like that. But yeah, the QR code is broken. Clearly because they've taken it down to probably to do some more work on it at some point. Oh, I wonder, maybe... Sorry, I'm going around and you guys can't see this, but I'm going to see if they've got a YouTube channel. Maybe it's up on there. So try and do it without disrupting. Magpie Games. Our Last Best Hope tutorials. No, it just looks like a lot of reviews. Unfortunately. Oh, no. No. Oh, I think I found it. That's where, let me just double check. Yeah. There you go. So yeah, I've typed into YouTube Magpie Games Our Last Best Hope tutorials, and there you go. I mean, 11 years ago, there are the videos that they have there. Which again, I would recommend starting yourself. That's really great. I'm a big fan of having extra videos and stuff like that. It's a shame the link's broken. I had to quickly look. And each video, they had, what, 2 minutes? 3 minutes long, and the setup. I love that. It's a shame there's not many views on it. Oh, it's such a shame, because that would be really helpful. Certainly if it's a game about a GM designer. So yeah, I guess with having PDFs and having... Yeah, it's a shame that that link no longer works. It would have been better just to send it to like the YouTube and maybe a YouTube playlist or something like that. Yeah, that is a shame. Or maybe even to a Google folder. The problem is when you have links or QR codes to a certain thing, there's always the risk of it getting broken. So in my head, what you would do is like send it to Magpie Games to Our Last Best Hope, and then have a list of all the resources on that website. That is what a great idea, and it's just unfortunate that URL is broken. Anyway, sorry, I missed the top here. So, mission prep. So, everything you need to know about getting the game set up, from specifics of a character creation to advice about how to choose a mission. They said that fits your group. Setting up a session of Our Last Best Hope requires about 30 minutes of gameplay, but it is an entertaining experience that makes the heroic sacrifices at the end much more meaningful. So, it's kind of like a session 0 in a way. Play instructions. So Our Last Best Hope is split into 2 acts, of Act 1 and Act 2. In the first act, your team will approach the crisis, attempting to engage the problem and solve it. In Act 2, whoever is still left alive on your team will confront the crisis directly, possibly sacrificing your lives to save humanity. Then we've got the QR codes, which don't work, unfortunately. Also, that's quite wild. Hang on, let me think about it. QR codes have been a thing, but this book came out in 2012. The first smartphone was like 2019. No, 2019. When was the first iPhone? So I'm going to look at iPhone first came out. Okay, so it'd been out for roughly about 5 years. June 2007. So, like, they're even talking about QR codes here. And when did this particular edition come out? Sorry, I'm curious now. When did it say? Right. Yeah, first printing, so maybe it hasn't been updated since then. That's pretty, I mean, it's pretty ahead of its time to talk about, I feel, to talk about smartphones. I don't know. Yes. Alright, sorry, I'm getting back to the point. Right. Ooh. In addition to the core rules, I've included tables you'll need to end Act 1 and Act 2. So the consequences and the crisis. That's quite that's very fiasco. I like to have tables like that. Also got a glossary, which is always good, and then a quick start guide on page 16. I've also included free missions that can be found starting on page 103 for use for the game. If you're interested in some of our additional downloads, actual play videos, and other resources, please visit that link there, which, it does work, that one, but still says not found. For more information. That is such a shame. Again, I appreciate I'm going on about it a little bit, but this is what I talk about sustainability a lot in the courses I used to create, is that you need to review these every year in case, say, for example, if you've got a course on stats, the stats will always change. If you've got links and stuff like your website's going to change, you need to check your books and stuff to make sure that if there's a QR code or like, they're just relinked, or if you're able to put out, re-download it for free or something. I don't know, it's just interesting in that sense. Kieran says, agreed. And whilst then are still newer games which use less inclusive and accessible terminology, tropes, etc., people like yourself, Rich, and based on what Fiona's already said, I apply more recently, make an effort to make games accessible, make their work a magnet for my interest. Oh, that's a very nice way of putting it. Alright, so, in order to play our Last Best Hope, you'll need a few things. We need index card. Each game of our Last Best Hope runs on about 30 index cards, 33 inches by 5 inches index cards. In general, your group will use these to record setting elements and pieces of information important to your character. It can seem silly to use up so many cards, but one of my favourite elements of our Last Best Hope is seeing the imagination of players displayed in the middle of the table. So don't skimp on the index cards. I totally agree. However, obviously, we're doing it now. Digital whiteboards, getting a free Trello account or a Miro board, or even Google whiteboards, or even sharing a shared document like a PowerPoint and people moving stuff in, that can also work as well in my books. But again, this is definitely in a time before we did online gaming, or at least it wasn't as common or easy. Probably wasn't as easy to do. Markers. So you'll need a few markers for the group to write information on the index cards. Writing on index cards in pencil is not nearly as satisfying as writing them in on marker. Also probably quite hard to read and it gets smudged and stuff like that, so yeah. Oh, and it can actually be quite hard writing in pencil from across the table, 100%. But once things are up and running, you will only need to make, you might want to have one marker per person or per player at the start of the game. Once things are up and running, you will only need 1 or 2 for the whole group. Pencils. You approximately need 1 pencil per player to write down threats, mark harm on your character sheet, and generally keep track of what is going on in the game. There are no maps or detailed schematics for you to follow, but it's nice to have something that you can use to make notes. I would say you don't need to explain why we need these things now. I think it's just if I was right, the index cards, markers, pencils, dice. I think just, again, this could have been truncated down a little bit, but again, I understand why they're saying it out loud. Dice. Your group will need 2 sets of 6-sided dice of our Last Best Hope. 1 light-coloured and 1 dark-coloured. Or 1 light-coloured and 1 darkly coloured. I use these terms white dice and black dice throughout the book, but feel free to use any sets of dice that are easily distinguishable from each other. You'll need at least 10 of each dice type. If that's more dice than you have on hand, please feel free to roll twice. Yeah, I'm always a big fan of rolling twice, because 10d6, so 20d6. I mean, not that you're going to roll all of them at the same time, but my hands aren't big enough for that. One thing I would say, because I talked about Quinn's Quest earlier, on his Patreon he talked about ways to roll dice, which I know sounds really silly. There was a cracking video using cups, on rolling into bowls and stuff like that. I might do that in future if I was doing it at a table, because it's more exciting. It sounded really interesting, his theories behind it. You need, right. Roll twice, one for the white dice and one for the black dice, whilst noting the totals of each roll. Okay, and then missions. In order to play Our Last Best Hope, you'll need to print out a copy of the mission you want to use for the game. Each mission explores a different, highly dangerous environment that your team must journey into in order to save the world, such as space, the core of the Earth, or a zombie apocalypse. And they're freely available, are they, at this website? No, they're not. That is a shame. Again, not surprising. But I'm a big fan. I know Free League does it, and I know a couple of other game designers do it, where it's like, here's some quick playtests of Cult. Was it actually a couple of free scenarios, quick play scenarios? So if you've got the core book, here's some free things to play with it, which I am a big fan of. So you're like, I just need a quick start, and it doesn't necessarily. Oh, a quick start scenario that doesn't come maybe with the core book for whatever reason. Here's some ones that you can run at a convention or something. Love that. Again, as long as they've got the what the vibes are, what the themes of it are, so you could, like, so it's going to be a horror or it's going to be in space, etc., and also some content warnings as well. All right, let's look through the quick start guide. So, Our Last Best Hope is simple to play. You and your friends will prep your mission, play through Act 1 and Act 2, and then confront the crisis. In the next few chapters, I'll detail how to play each section of the game with examples of play that should help to show you how the game is actually played. In order to help you keep things clear, I've included this quick start guide at the front of the book. If it's a bit overwhelming right now, go ahead and skip it. It's mostly meant as a reference so that you can see where things are going and how different things are pieced together, or different pieces fit together. Alright, so I think, again, nowadays this would be on a quick reference sheet that you give to all the players. So step 1 is mission prep. We choose a mission, pick a captain and a supply officer. Define the crisis, the response, the plan. Place one black die per player on a card and label on the card labeled the event pool. Give each player 2 story points and place 2 story points per player on the plan. Pick a role, introduce the characters, which have questions of why you're on the mission, what you left behind, which is a touchstone, and what you brought with you, which is another touchstone. Create your sane, crazy, secret, and fear cards. Wouldn't necessarily use crazy. Maybe wild would be better one here, but that's okay. Again, we'll find out what those mean in a second. Pass your secret card to the player on your left. Oh, pass your secret card to your left and your fear card to the right. Ooh, I wonder what that means. Define one asset the team can use per player. Draw a death card. Create the threat card and pass it to your left, one at a time. Place the threats in the center of the table. So yeah, there's a mixture of like fiasco type play here, but also a little bit of Mars Colony, I seem to remember as well, with like the different stuff. And Dialect uses those same sort of index cards as well. Okay. Seems a very simple so far setup thing. Again, we'll go into detail about it in a second. Then we have playing scenes. So Act 1. The first scene is the choice. Roll the dice and consult Mimic. Who's Mimic? After the choice, each character gets a spotlight scene. Pick one or more characters and outline what you want the scene to be about. Try use your zany, crazy secret cards. The first player to the right who isn't in a scene should choose a threat. When the scene reaches its climax, play the threat card. The first player to the left who isn't in the scene should play Mimic. If everyone is in the scene, the captain chooses the threat, the supply officer plays the Mimic. Ooh, that's quite cool. Keep going around the circle until there are 3 dice per player in the event pool. And then taking threats. So one character must take the threat. Once the decision is made, the player must continue rolling against the threat until it is resolved or he or she dies. Threats in Act 1 start at 3 black dice. Threats in Act 2 start at 5. Oh gosh. Okay, that's quite a lot. All the characters start with 1 white dice, and they can add more through roll abilities and assets. Additional characters can support the character who took the threat, adding their dice to the pool. The first character to help does so for free, and additional supporters must pay a story point each to do so. For each point of harm the main character has sustained, add 1 black die to the roll. Oh. Once all the dice have been collected, roll them. Add up the black and white totals. Whichever is the bigger becomes the effect. Ah yes, it feels very much like that end of Fiasco, doesn't it? For each 5 or below, 5 above or below 0, add an additional effect. Oh wow, so almost like 2 extremes. If any black sixes come up during Act 1, move 1 from the event pool and pay the player 2 story points. Oh, okay. Players can also purchase white sixes by paying 3 story points. White effects reduce the size of the threat. Black effects add harm to all characters who participated in the roll. If the roll is exactly equal, so 0 I'm guessing, roll the event pool and add a new threat equal to any black effects. When Act 1 ends, take all the dice... Sorry, you guys, can you see that? Yes, you can. Take all the dice in the event pool and roll them. Consult the consequence table and see what effects the choice are... to see what the effects of the choice are on the mission. Alright, and then, playing Act 2, place all the black dice from the event pool on the crisis. This represents the level of the final threat. Place the white dice on the plan. These dice can be used by any player for any roll during Act 2. Each character gets one more scene. Once those scenes have been completed, any character left alive confronts the crisis, right? Build a normal threat roll. Oh, there's a little bit of formatting here. Build a normal threat roll against the dice. Roll all the involved dice and consult the crisis table, so almost like an epilogue table. Other notes. If your character will die from harm, you may play your death card to escape the threat. However, you must die according to the card before the final roll against the crisis. Ooh, so you're almost like stopping death for now. That's interesting. When you do, add 2 white dice to the final crisis roll, and if you do not, add 2 black dice to the final crisis roll. Oh, it's almost like a butterfly effect, like Dark Anthology Picture House stuff. That's quite cool. If you have not played your death card, but you're about to die in a way that fits it, you may play the card as your die to add 3 white dice to the final crisis roll. Oh, wow. If you choose a death from your death card when you are not taking harm, you may play the card to add 3 white dice to the final crisis and get 2 story points to the plan. I'm sure all these things will make sense when we look through it properly. If your character is dead, play out a flashback scene on your turn. A threat at the end of the scene still occurs in the present. Playing any story cards, Zany, Crazy, Secret, or Fear will get you 2 story points. Fear cards also add a black die to the threat total. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely like a... Here's all the information in 2 pages, which again, would be good as a reference sheet for everyone to see, especially if you don't have a GM for this. Anyway, let's go. Chapter 1, Mission Prep. None of you have to go. We can all just sit here on Earth waiting for this big rock to crash into it, killing everything and everyone we know. The United States government just asked us to save the world. Anyone want to say no? Armageddon. Great film. Loved it. Alright, the mission. So before starting to play Our Last Best Hope. Yep. I keep thinking Our Best Last Hope for some reason is why I keep saying it's Our Last Best Hope. Your group should select which mission they would want to do for the session. Missions are instant settings for your game. It's almost like a play set, right? They are a collection of crises, limits, threats, and assets that will help you create a unique story without having to come up with every last idea on your own. The mission's title describes the environment that your team will be working in whilst trying to save humanity. The mission environments are harsh. Each member of your team knows that the journey may be a one-way trip. In fact, some of your crew may have signed up for the mission knowing that they're not going to make it back. There are 3 missions included in this book. We have the space one, we have snow, and we have zombie apocalypse. So, space one is your team shielded from the empty vacuum of the heavens by a fragile ship must leave Earth's atmosphere to stop the crisis. And here are some touchstones for it. We've got Deep Impact, Armageddon, Sunshine. Great. Snow. Oh, it's the day after tomorrow, not 2012. I don't know why I said kept saying 2012. Day after tomorrow is what I was thinking of. When I was talking about the film before. The snow. So exposed to the harshest conditions on Earth, your team must brave the ice floes, frigid winds, and dangerous animals to save humanity. We have the day after tomorrow, the grey, dead snow. That's an interesting one, dead snow. Is that the one with the Nazi zombies in? And then we have the zombie apocalypse. The world has ended already for most. But to save those who are left, you and your crew are willing to brave the zombie horse. So we've got Walking Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Zombieland. Now here's the thing. one of the thing I actually found interesting when it talked about it at the beginning is that, said, you can go into space, or you can go to the Earth's core. None of these involve the Earth's core. I want to go to the Earth's core. Where's Journey to the Center of the Earth? That sounded more interesting to me, rather than going up there. Let's go down. Let's go underground. So maybe it's going to be the expansion, perhaps. So each mission has a list of crises, limits, and threats and assets that your group could use, but nothing in the mission is required. Feel free at any time to come up with your own ideas that fit the theme of the mission, adding in elements that you think would make the story interesting. The mission is a guide, not a straitjacket. Again, maybe change that to be like, it has guidelines. They're not rules, they're guidelines. And your group's ideas should take priority. Thanks to our generous Kickstarter backers, Magpie Games will be releasing further missions for our Last Best Hope companion and their website. Whoops, that's not aged well. But look at that. If you'd like to design a mission, drop us an email at info@magpie.com. I mean, will that still work now? I doubt it, but that's a nice thought, right? Again, no alt text unfortunately there. So, the setting. So once you've selected a mission, your group will need to define the key story elements, the crisis that the team will face, the limit that will make the team so important, and the plan to avert the end of humanity. So again, you should capitalize or embolden these 3 elements are important. Think of the setting as the pitch for your movie. What would you tell the movie studio executive if you got the chance to ask for millions of dollars to fund a disaster movie? I'd say it doesn't use CGI. It uses practical effects. That's what I'd say. So it doesn't look rubbish when you look at it back in 10 years' time. What is the central conflict in the story that drives your characters to risk their lives to save humanity? If you had such a chance, you would need to answer some important questions. So, like, what is the crisis? What threatens to destroy humanity? What is the limit? Why is this team our best last hope? What is your plan, and how do you intend to stop the crisis? So these 3 primary setting elements, the crisis, the limit, and the plan, will help you sketch out these important details. Ooh. When I run Our Last Best Hope, I do my best to make games as visual and tactile as possible, writing down all the setting elements on index cards and black marker. It can be tempting just to jot down all the elements on a piece of paper, but by placing the setting in the center of the table helps to remind all players that the crisis is looming and ever present in their lives. Don't let the setting be ignored by stuffing it away out of sight. I absolutely agree with this. I'm going to go on my quick rant. What we're over an hour. Okay, I'm going to be quick on this. So, in improvisation, whenever you get suggestion for something, you go, let's give me a suggestion of a location that's no bigger than the stage. And people always go like, the office, airplane, a swimming pool, all that sort of thing, right? The improvisers I've seen, they'll acknowledge the setting, and then it'll go on to like the people. And so, like, if you have an ordinary setting, so like office, swimming pool, etc., you go, right, well, what's the thing about the office? Okay, office, there's going to be a meeting with the boss, and I'm going to be fired. That's usually the case, right? It's something like, it's very boring. I think it's mundane things. And it's like, the whole point of improv is like, why are we seeing this scene? What's important about this scene compared to all the other scenes that are like this? What's different about today, But then when you get extraordinary settings, so like, for example, this like space. So like a space station or a space canteen. People's minds then open up to be like, oh, we could be aliens, we could be part of Star Trek or something like that. But then I still feel that then it's given them the permission to be something else, which is great, big fan of that. But then you don't care about the location, and I feel the location should be equally, if not more important than the players and stuff like that. You have to keep acknowledging it. Maybe this is what this game does well, is that it's like the setting is the crisis, and it's going to take up everything, and it's just giving it that knowledge that is always here, that is always influencing you as a character, rather than just being supporting you as a character. It's influencing everything about you. So like here, I can imagine like, again, like meteor hitting Earth. It's impacting on everything you do. Climate change, also impacting everything you do, or should do. If you're like, space, you're like, right, I guess I'm a Starfleet captain. And that's, it's like, okay, there's something about like ordinary characters in extraordinary circumstances that is really interesting. But the extraordinary circumstances should make those ordinary characters stand out and be different. Because otherwise you have those ordinary settings of extraordinary characters of being wacky, wild, this is the reason I'm being fired about my job, etc. So I really like that. Don't let the setting be ignored by stuffing it away out of sight. Love that. I might actually put that down in my settings workshop I've been working on. Again, this QR code does not work, and this link does not work either. Alright, the crisis. To start, label an index card with the crisis over the top, across the top, and write on the card in big black marker what terrible crisis your group is going to face. So, for example, a giant meteor heading towards Earth. The Earth's core is concentrating uranium into a critical mass. That's a shame. It's a shame there's no playset in this game that can do it. An airborne strain of the zombie virus. A great crisis is inescapable and non-negotiable, bearing down on Earth like a runaway freight train. If your team does not stop whatever is coming for us, the crisis will wipe out all of humanity, and perhaps even the Earth itself. Sitting back and waiting to see how things turn out is not an option. The inevitability of the crisis is extremely important. It sets the stage for heroism of the characters as they struggle and even die in an attempt to save humanity. Pick something big and bold here. A threat big enough to take it to the center of your whole story. Alien invasions, dying suns, and nuclear doomsdays are wonderful crises. Your mileage may vary, because they will be constantly on your character's mind. Do not let your actual scientific knowledge get in the way of creating a great story. Yeah, don't think about it too hard, I think is what I'm trying to say there. It is absolutely ridiculous, for example, that the sun would go out, or that the Earth's core would stop spinning. But our last best hope is a game of heroic sacrifice, not precise science. Pick themes and settings that you think are interesting. The accuracy of the science claims that your characters are making is not really that important. Your mission can be really helpful here, either as the wellspring of ideas or random setting generators. So see random setting generators on page 30. Nice. Each mission has a number of crises attached to it as suggestions for your group to use. If you got an idea that's not already listed, please don't let that hold you back. As long as the setting is in keeping with the mission's theme, so space, snow, and zombies, SSC, your ideas for the crisis will probably work. And then there's an example here. Fine. One thing I'd say, I like how this tone is. Right. Hogan says, meteor hitting Earth is impacting everything you do. Literally. I mean, it's that film, Don't Look Up, right? It's gonna kill us all. It infects the politics and stuff. I think one thing I want to say on the tone, I really like the tone. It's very friendly, but it feels like the game designer is talking to me and saying, "Oh, think about doing this. I have done this and all that," which I absolutely love. I think that's great because I prefer that myself. I think this could be quite tricky if you're brand new to running a game without a game master. Powered by the apocalypse. I think it's a bit too. I kind of wish it was a bit more. I want to say structured. Like, for example, I understand. Like, it's like a great crisis is inescapable, non-negotiable. Where is it? Like, it's giving advice. I think maybe we should take this, like, the game master's advice or whatever, and then put it into boxes. Like on the side, it'll be like, this, like, highlight it as like, this is the game master's. This is the game designer's commentary on this. Personally. Like here, for example, do not let your actual scientific knowledge get in the way of creating a great story. This whole thing could be a box on the side. Because I understand that. I understand that completely, but if you're playing brand new, but that, if somebody doesn't like disaster films, probably this is not the game for them, I'll be honest. But yeah, I like the tone of it, but I think it could be maybe a little bit cleaner, maybe a little bit more formal, perhaps. Like I do love it myself, but maybe, or if it's not more formal, I think taking things out and putting it as like, here is some advice from the game designer, and keep. So you don't have to read all of this to get what we're doing. I don't think. Right, moving on. The limit. So once you got the crisis set, label another index card with the limit, and write on the card why your team are the only people that can save humanity. So, for example, only one experimental device can destroy the meteor. Classic. There is only time to send one ship to the Earth's core. All that money has gone to waste, guys. We were too busy looking at the skies when we were thinking of the ground. The crew are the only people who are immune to the mutant zombie strain. The limit is a fantastic time to establish what the world looks like outside of the crisis and the mission. You want the story to take place in the far future, for example, you can create a limit that reflects an advanced world where your team is made of the only people that are genetically engineered to withstand extreme gravitational forces. Yes, true. If you want to play a session set in the 1950s, you can suggest all of it takes place. It takes all the Earth's resources to get the ship that far into space. Yes. Or like, is it the most extraordinary journey or something like that, where they go into the human body? That sort of thing, they're shrunk down. Maybe it's, the idea of like there's only one time to send one ship. Yeah, I get that. I had a random thought. A lot of SCP stories would make an epic one-shot. I'd love to play an entire SCP campaign. Yes, I do love them. I think my favourite one of that is that you do not know the bodies in the water. I think that's what it's called. And I love the way that's just written. It's so simple, straightforward, and it's just fun. I'd recommend Hogan. If you like that sort of like idea of like entries of the unexplained, whatever, I'd recommend listening to the Magnus Archives as a podcast. If you've not checked it out already, this idea of the archivist of a top secret organization is reading out statements given to the organization to about explain stuff, and then he does a critique of it afterwards to be like, oh, it's very similar to this or this, and we followed up and we couldn't find anything. Certainly the first season I really, really enjoyed, and I'd recommend that if you've not checked it. It's Magnus Archives. There are other ones out there, I would say, as well, but that's the one that comes to my mind, that idea of the creepypasta stuff. Actually, I'll tell you what my favourite creepypasta story was. There's that idea of like, I am a park ranger, and here's some top tips that you should know before you go venturing into the wilderness. And my favourite one was this, like, if you ever see a staircase in the forest, don't go up it. And you're like, what are you talking about? And this person talked about like, yeah, I saw like a fully formed like staircase that looked like it'd been taken out of like a house, modern house. And before I knew it, I was about to go up it, and my partner was like, don't go up it. You don't want to see what happens at the top. And that was it. And there was no explanation, no nothing. And obviously, again, never explained, right? But I love that idea. Like, you come across this idea of just something that you can't explain why it's there. So again, I imagine like staircases of like all sorts. You just see, and you never see. They're just there. You never see what's at the top. So anyway, there you go. What did I say? If you are stuck, it almost always works to put not enough time for a limit, indicating that your team is working against the clock, trying to stop the crisis before it strikes. Remember that you also have the mission to refer to as well. The limit section of the mission has a dozen different limits that can be used during your session. There's another example here. Again, well, I mean, to be fair to them, one of my big criticisms is always when you've got lots of blank space, put some artwork there. They have done that, although, again, the artwork's fine. Like, again, that whole thing is a bit silhouettes and stuff. Would have been nice to maybe put more stuff on pages, perhaps? Because I feel like this artwork's a little bit too big, personally, but there you go. Oh, what a wonderful story. Oh, but the staircase. Yeah, I'd recommend looking at. It's like, I'm a park ranger and here's some tips. I think that's what it's called, and there's like a series of them. And some of them aren't as good, I'd say. But that one, and finding stuff up trees, and you don't know how they got there. I won't go into more detail than that because I've got content warnings on it, but that was an interesting one, where they're like, we don't know how they got up there, and we're not going to question it. So, oh. Alright. Still in the setup. How are we doing for time? Okay, we've got about 40 minutes left. Ooh, I zoomed in too quick. So, the plan. Finally, your team will need to define the plan. Label one index card, the plan, and write what specifically your team is going to do to stop the crisis. So, for example, blow up the meteor with an experimental nuke. Classic. Place control rods in the Earth's molten core to avert the explosion. Detonate a nuclear device to wipe out the airborne strain before it spreads. A good plan should include the possibility of failure, and even the chance that your characters might have to sacrifice their lives to pull it off. Experimental technologies work well here, as the uncertainty surrounding the device or procedure used to stop the crisis is a great topic of conversation for the team. Simple, easy, or safe plans are not interesting to play and should be avoided. The plan should be as specific as possible so that each member of the team can figure out what roles will be helpful to the mission. Vague plans sound like they should be good for involving all the players, but specific details create hooks on which players can build. If the ship uses an experimental cloaking device to get close to an alien ship, for example, then it offers the opportunity for someone in your group to play the inventor of the device. And then again, there's another example of a playtest. This is the problem. This text, this is because, you know what it is? There's a big gap at the top here, and they've got this very cool, if it moves up a little bit, there's such a big gap of white texted, this example should have been here. Again, if it's a box somewhere, that would have been better. Not the best laid out, I think. Again, we have either big art, which would use a lot of ink, I think, as well. Yeah, I feel like this is such a shame, actually. Yeah, I realise that it's the big gap at the top. We move stuff up a little bit, and we can kill it all on one page. We wouldn't need 2 pages for it, because I think the text is fine. Right. The event pool. So now that you've got 3 setting cards on the table, label another the event pool. Put 1 black dice per player on it. So if you had 3 players, you'd have 3 black dice. These dice represent the starting size of the crisis and the current state of Act 1. The more black dice there are in the event pool, the more likely things will go poorly for your team. And as the game goes on, you'll add more dice to the event pool, some white and some black. See, adding dice in a second. Act 1 ends when the total of dice in the pool is equal to 3 dice per player. So, here we have 9 dice for a 3-player game, and then 15 dice for a 5-player game, and 12 for a 4-player game. The mix of dice in the event pool, i.e. the ratio of black to white dice, will determine how Act 1 will affect the team. Hint, you would like to see more white dice than black dice in the event pool. Yeah, absolutely you would. And then as an example, again we don't need it. Oh, another QR code. Fine. Generate random settings. If your group enjoys generating setting elements through dice, you can use the mission to generate random settings by rolling 2 white dice and 2 black dice and using the numbers on the dice to select setting elements that match the values of the dice put on display. Excuse me. So if your group rolled a white 2, a white 3, black 4, and a black 5, again, it would have been nice to have that notation there just for accessibility's sake. You can't read that. Whilst using the space mission, you can select the following. So, Crisis is an alien derelict, a massive alien derelict on the course to collide with Earth. The Limit. Experimental ship is the only one that can complete the mission. The group could also choose the Crisis is orbital weapons platform is about to fire nukes at Earth. The Limit is that the team is at a nearby location and time is short. Nice. Okay, good example there. Whatever dice you do not use to construct the setting will be used for complications at the start of Act 1. Oh, that's cool. So I like that. So they're never not used. You always use stuff. That's great. Again, unfortunately, that QR code, that link does not work. Okay, the team. Whilst there is no GM for our last best hope, you'll need to assign 2 roles to keep the game moving. You need to pick a captain to act as leader and facilitator for the mission. It is her job to keep the group on task and focused on the next stage in the game, rolling the event pool if needed, and selecting a threat when everyone else is busy. If you have a question about the rules at the table that can't be figured out, the captain will make the final decision. If someone in the group has played the game before, it's usually a good idea to have that person play the captain. So there is a facilitator in this game. Again, I'm sort of joking in another way, but I always think like when there's a game that's like GM-less, there's always someone that does end up being the person that looks at the rules and knows how to play the game a little bit. So I don't mind it either way, but yeah, it would be nice if it was somebody else and then someone is just like, I'm just going to check the rules, this is what you can do, but somebody else plays the captain. So I do think that's kind of an important role. Ooh. So note that the captain is both an in-character and out-of-character position. The person who picks up this role will also play the leader of the team during the mission. The captain can lose her in-character position if the team decides someone else should lead in character, but her out-of-character position will always be her responsibility. Fine. But again, I think you need to make that clear in some way. And then, pick a supply officer to handle story points for the mission. Give all the story points to the supply officer. If someone wants to claim story points during a game, consult the supply officer. He has the ultimate authority on whether the players deserve additional story points during play. At the start, the supply officer should hand out 2 story points to each player and place 2 story points per person on the plan. The individual story points can only be spent by the player who holds them and cannot be traded or given away. The points on the plan are free to any player to use. I will say, I don't think it told us what we could use for story points. Like, again, I don't want to be that person like, oh, well, often, I know in previous games I've gone, beads, seeds, etc. I don't think it actually has told us. All it said is like we need dice. I'm going to go back and have a look. We need dice and cards. Did it say we needed anything else? In order to play, you need index cards, markers, pencils, and dice. And missions. It doesn't say you need anything physical for story points. I guess you maybe mark down with pens. I always like, with pencils, sorry. I always do like having a physical thing to give across, or if it's a digital thing, like having a way of like, here is a token, etc. Especially if this game is tactile. I think it makes sense that, Fiona's got 3 story points that she's going to spend all at once, you know. There you go. Random settings, the team. To start, yeah, I've said that. Story points. Yes, I've said all that. Great. Great. Alright, character creation. So once the setting and the team has been established, each player should create a character for the mission. Our last best hope as a light character creation system should only take a few minutes to complete. First, each player should pick a role. Roles describe what kind of training and experience your character brings to the effort to save humanity, and also what mechanical strengths he brings to the team. Okay, again, they would be better, perhaps. There is no levels or ranks to these roles. It is assumed your characters are the best that Earth has to offer. Multiples of each role is allowed and may even be needed to complete the mission. That's good. I'd actually highlight that particular bit, because some people will be like, oh no, I wanted to be a doctor, but somebody else is a doctor. Here's a quick summary. We'll go through this, and then we'll probably skip the actual roles explanation. So, engineer. A common team member on technically complex missions, an engineer is crucial for keeping the technology working on the mission on track. The role ability is spend a story point to add 1 white die when facing technical threats. So that's their specialization. Nice. Again, would be nice if that was in bold or something. Soldier. Not all threats can be countered with science alone. Guns help too. Role ability. Spend a story point to add 1 white dice when trying to inflict damage on a threat. Okay. Doctor. Needing medical science assistance, many teams have doctors to ensure that the psychological and physiological health of the team, or to defeat biological threats. Role ability. So spend a story point to allow a player, including yourself, to ignore their harm dice for 1 roll. And then finally, the scientist playbook, I guess. Many other crises that humanity faces require bold and risky plans that have been dreamt up by our best and brightest minds. Sometimes they come along for the mission. Oh, how kind of them. There's a bit of a gap there. The role ability. Spend a story point to remove 1 black die from a threat roll. Damn, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good one there. So, once everyone has picked roles, each player should write their character's name and role on the front of a folded piece of card, like a place setting. Putting the character's name out in front of the players serves as the same purpose as putting setting cards out on the table. Players will use what they see in front of them. Yeah, again, it's an easy way to remind what the people's names are. The same thing when you have stickers at a meet and greet event or Zoom, changing your name and all that sort of thing. I think that's always a good thing to do. Tell you what, I'm going to skip over the roles bit personally because I want to get to like the Acts 1 and 2 because we've only got half an hour left. So apologies if you were looking forward to that particular bit, but I think it's fine. I get the sense of what it is. We've got some suggested themes for each one and some example soldiers as well. That's pretty good. Quite like that. Ooh, wait a minute. Sorry. Did we just see that at the bottom there? Example soldiers. His devotion to his duty, his sense of righteous focus in the face of obstacles and enemies has led to the US military declaring him the captain of the Olympic, a space vessel that is en route to intercept and destroy an alien invasion heading towards our solar system. Lieutenant Ryder, has brought with him his father's record collection and has left behind his husband, Tom Herrera. Right? Anyway, regardless, That's pretty bloody big for 2012. I'm just saying that right now. I think that's pretty big anyway. Great news. And then another example there as well. So we get in total 2 suggested themes, a little bit of like how to play them, and then 2 examples we can use. Nice. And that's for each one of these. Okay, I quite like that there's only 4 like sort of archetypes that we can use as well. So we, like I said, the soldier, the engineer, the doctor, and the scientist. I quite like that. Makes sense. I'm just going to move. Oh, is that only one there? Oh no, there's another one at the bottom there. Very good, scientist. Cool. Doctor. Right. And then let's say creating unconventional characters. So whilst every mission can have a few stock characters that fill the roles of doctor or soldier, our last best hope works best when the characters are interesting enough to create drama, conflict, and story between threats. Try to challenge yourself and your groups to add depth to the game by adding twists and oddities to your characters, elements that go beyond stock characters. Here's a few examples I've seen and used in play. And so then we've got some examples. Okay, I thought it was like, here's some ideas to think of it, maybe a random table. We've got some, again, I'm not mad, but I'm not going to read these out. We've got 4 of them. Okay. On the back of the character card, each player should write what I brought and what I left behind, then fill out the open slots with details of their character. We use these items, we call these items touchstones, and they give each character a grounding in their life before the mission. Later in the game, you can use these touchstones to get additional dice, just as they were free story points. So yeah, it's a simple dice play there. They can be metaphorical or real, and some of the best I've seen is, I brought with me my dog, my favorite gun, or something metaphorical, my crippling inferiority complex. Amazing. I left behind my psycho ex-boyfriend, okay, my alcoholism, or everything. Oh, again, lines and veils. I appreciate this game has not talked about safety or safety tools. Again, it was before this sort of thing was sort of in the highlight a lot. Definitely would have that here, because like, again, you've got to be careful of those sort of things. Once the characters are made, go around the circle with each player introducing his or her character and telling the group why they are on the mission. I'm the scientist who designed the device we're going to stop the crisis with, reading aloud their touchstones and what they brought, what they left behind. If that's it in terms of character creation, that's pretty great. Like that. Now I've got an example here, again with massive big white space. Oh, it's the story cards, I guess, yeah. So, create story cards. So once all the characters have been introduced, take 2 index cards per player, rip them in half, write the following on them. 1 word per card in black marker. Sane, crazy, fear, secret and fear. These are called story cards. On the back of the sane card, write the name of one character in the crew who keeps your characters sane. On the back of the crazy card, write the name of one character who drives your character crazy, or I guess it irritates you, right? Who drives you mad in that sense of like, yeah, I think just crazy isn't the best word, just in case people mistake it for something. On the back of the secret card, write a secret your character would prefer not to reveal to the rest of the team. And back on the fear card, write a fear your character has that's likely to come up in the mission. Don't reveal any of your story cards to the other players. Ooh, sorry. Write your character's name on the front of the secret and fear cards, then pass the secret to your left and the fear to your right. You should end up with 4 story cards, so 2 of your own and 2 belonging to other people. Each of these story cards can be turned into the supply officer for 2 story points. This is a primary way you will get story points during the game. There is little to no benefit to waiting to turn them in until Act 2. In fact, if your character dies before you have to turn them into story cards, those cards go to waste, so use them early and often. Yeah, it just gets you straight into the action, doesn't it? And again, please don't. So, sane/crazy cards. To activate the sane and crazy cards, your character must be involved in an interaction with the named character that fits the description of the card. If you've selected him for your sane card, you can play the card when the character is doing something that helps you keep yourself together. And if you've selected them for your crazy card, you can play the card when they are driving you up the wall. Most of these interactions will happen during scenes. In fact, one of the major reasons to have a scene with another character is to maneuver them into making you crazy or to making you sane. But there is no limit to when sane and crazy cards can be played. You can play them when another character agrees to tackle a threat, inspiring you to believe in humanity or getting in your way again. Or when they come up with an interesting idea, proving their worth, reminding you how frustrating their constant chatter can be. The only exception is when your character dies. At that point, you can't play any more story cards at all. Once a card is played, it is used up and cannot be used again. Give the card to the supply officer to get your story points. It is a great idea to build on the relationship that you have established through the card in future scenes, but those interactions carry no mechanical benefit to the outcome. In short, play the card when they are keeping you sane or making you crazy, and then hand it and collect your 2 story points. Okay, but I would say I would want to talk to the player going, okay, can we... I would actually tell people, because it feels like they won't know. Sounds like they might not know that you are the person that keeps me sane. Later in the game, I don't know, I think I don't know about keeping it a secret from the other players, perhaps. I'm not so sure. Just making myself hydrated. Again. Tag yourself. I think I'm this one after all. Secret cards. You can play secret cards in one of 2 ways. Either play the card before a scene starts to force the character to reveal the secret during the next scene. Let's have evidence of your betrayal come to light. Or have your character do a dramatic reveal during a scene using the secret. I know you slept with my ex-wife. Ooh. Either way gets you 2 story points from the supply officer. It is up to you if you know the secret you have been handed or remain in the dark about it. Given the close quarters in which most missions take place, it is completely reasonable to imagine how characters might learn uncomfortable things about each other, from overhearing conversations to reading sensitive materials left out in the ship. Coming up with a great secret takes a bit of work. If you try to create something that would be embarrassing for your character to reveal, also tied into the mission some way. I will say that's something I found with the latest Vecna book for D&D, is that the main mechanic that they're trying to play with is Vecna is a god of secrets, and if you find out a secret in the game, if you spend it, you get advantage on all your checks for the next minute. And it's a very cool idea, I will say. In the story, though, the secrets, which end up being like, I feel guilty that I didn't go find this person. You're like, that's not a secret. That's just a feeling. Is no matter what you feel about it, it's just a secret. Is that? I don't think it is a secret. I think it's just you feeling bad about something. Like, I feel bad at stuff, but I don't consider them secrets. Here's a few secrets I have seen during the playtesting that really worked. So, I have an artificial heart. Ooh. I requested to be transferred off the mission. I was arrested in my home country for experimenting on children. Ooh, okay, again. Careful with that. My father knew about the crisis decades ago, told no one. I know there is a saboteur on board. Ooh, again, those are quite good. I like those secrets. As with sane and crazy cards, the secret cannot be used again once it is played. Give the card to the supply officer and get your story points. Usually, secrets end up being the source of further conversation and conflict amongst the characters, but there is no further mechanical benefit. Okay. In short, play the card to force the reveal or expose the secret in a dramatic revelation. Hand the card to the supply officers and collect your 2 story points. So yeah, it's not your secret, it's somebody else's secret that you're exposing. So, And then obviously... Excuse me, an example there as well. Actually, let's read these examples. So Jeff's character, Milton O'Malley, has a secret. He faked most of the data he used for his graduate thesis. He passed off the secret onto our 4th player, Mika. Jeff gets my secret. Ramirez is supposed to ensure that Erickson does not return to Earth alive. And has 2 options. He can make me reveal the secret, or he can reveal it himself. Jeff decides that he will force me to reveal it during a scene by playing it before the scene starts. Once he plays the card, I will have to let it slip that I have orders to kill Gavin's character. So do you just reveal it to the whole table, or you go, I'm gonna reveal your secret? I assume you're revealing it to the whole table. I don't know. I like the idea that you dramatically reveal it, because that's gonna be quite fun. Okay, fear cards. So unlike other story cards, you may only use the fear card when the targeted character is part of the role to defeat the threat. Play the card to introduce the fear into a scene. So the lights go out and you're afraid of the dark. Add 1 black die to the roll. Playing the card gets you 2 story points from the supply officer. but it makes it a bit harder for players rolling the dice to resolve the threat. Try to create a fear for yourself that is likely to come up during your mission. Unlike secret cards, fear cards tend to be specific to the mission's environment, such as jellyfish during an underwater mission. Oh, nice. Or child zombies during a zombie apocalypse. Again, your mileage may vary. That also sounds dreadful. There are a few general fears that work well across the board, mostly because they tend to focus on small quarters and dismal chances for survival. So, like, example here, I fear tight spaces. Claustrophobia is always a big one in horror films. I fear that I was the wrong choice for the mission. Oh, imposter syndrome. Nice. Try to play the fear card you hold quickly. Many players will forget that they have the card at all. I think, yeah, if you've got 3 other cards that you're going to use, you might forget the fear card. And only remember when there are out of story points and during Act 2. Try to pay attention when a subject of a fear card you hold is rolling dice. As with all other story cards, the fear cannot be reused. Give it to the spy officer, collect your 2 story points, and in short, play the card when the named officer is about to roll against the threat. Hand the card to the supply officer and collect your 2 story points. Yes, I like the idea. Again, it'll have to be like, Fiona's about to roll. Well, her fear of the unknown comes into this play. It might be tricky. Again, it depends on if they're... It says use it early, but you have to be sure your fear is pretty good. So yeah, general fear is pretty important here. There's an example there as well. I'm guessing that's a communicator or a phone of some sort, maybe a flip phone? Very odd. Where are this person's fingers? He's shouting into it. Alright, mission asset. So once all the story cards have been created, each player should define one asset that the group has for use on the journey. Go around the circle and get each player to pick one asset, write it on an index card, and place it face up in the center of the table. So for example, they might pick a top-of-the-line medical bot, a cache of highly powered weapons, scientific survey of the crisis. Your team can have anything they need, but these assets are valuable because they're important enough to have a mechanical effect. Players can spend a story point to add a white dice to a roll using an asset, but only one asset can be used at a time, making a range of assets valuable. One set of weapons is great, but don't pick 4 different kinds of guns, as you only need to use one weapon at a time. Ooh. Since the crew is limited to assets it asks for at the start of the game, sometimes an asset starts pulling double or triple duty, becoming useful for nearly everything the crew needs. This can get a little silly, but remember to be flexible with science. I've seen claymores become the solution to every problem, and an EMP gun fix broken technology. Turning it off and on again, I see. If you would need something for narrative reasons, such as medical supplies for a wounded crewmate, feel free to narrate that you have such supplies. They have no mechanical effect on rolls, however, as only assets can add white dice to a threat roll. All other narratively generated resources do not add anything to help resolve threats, but can always be used to make the scene more interesting. And we've got some examples here. We've got state-of-the-art spaceship, nuclear weapons, oxygen biogarden. I like the sound of that. A cluster of repair bots. Nice. I see. And then you can discuss about whether or not it is good enough because we don't need it at the end of the mission. Nice. Oh, interesting. Okay. Mimic. So every mission has one additional resource in the fight against the end of humanity. The massively integrated multi-purpose informational computer, or Mimic, the first artificial intelligence created by humanity. Okay. Mimic contains all the information humanity has generated to date about the crisis and can be accessed by any team member in any location through the use of mobile devices and voice commands. Using your tricorder then. If you have a question, Mimic has an answer, although there may be elements of the crisis that are still a mystery. We'll talk about who plays Mimic later during the scene. Okay. Death cards. So finally, each player should draw a card from the death card deck. See these later on. Look at the card, but place it face down in front of you without letting any of the other players see it. If you have played this game recently and want to get a different death card to avoid repeating deaths, let the captain know and draw a new card. During mechanical challenges, your character may take harm. You can mark these levels of harm on your character name. You can mark these levels of harm on your character name card. There is no way to heal harm during a mission, but a doctor might help you mitigate the effects during a later roll. You can only take 5 points of harm before your character dies. Right, that's things you'd have to make sure you're aware of. If you take 5 levels of harm but aren't ready to die, you play your death card to cheat death. It resolves the threat you're currently facing, and your harm is reduced to 0. In Act 2, however, you must die in the way that matches the card, fulfilling your destiny. If you die per your death card by cheating death, you add 2 white dice to the final roll. If you reach the end and have not fulfilled your death, add 2 black dice to the final roll. If you have played your death card to cheat death, it is fine to take on other threats later in the game, especially ones that might help you fulfill your death card. In fact, many of the threats in Act 2 are often resolved by characters who need to fulfill their death cards. If you take 5 points of harm, and your impending death matches the death card, you can play your card to confirm your fate. Your character dies, the threat is resolved, and you generate 3 white dice for the group instead of 2. You may also choose your death at any time. Play your death card and narrate your character's death, resolving any threats that are out on the table at the time. You generate 3 white dice for the final roll and immediately add 2 story points to the plan. Any character can do this at any time, meaning you choose to die at any moment, regardless of how much harm you have sustained, in order for your death to fit the card. Death is not the end of your character's story. Players of dead characters get to create flashback scenes instead of moving the story forward in the present, and many of those scenes are the most moving, involving scenes in the story. Excellent. We probably should have a look at what these death cards look like, huh? Okay. Once all the other setting elements have been set up, each player should write "threat" on the back of one index card in black marker. Then, one by one, each player should create a threat that the crew might face whilst enacting the plan. Start with the person on the left of the captain, have that person write a threat, and then pass the stack of threat cards to the next person to look at and add another one. Have the captain collect all these threats, add one more, and then place the stack of the threat cards face down on the table. The stack of threats the group has created is called the threat pool. During your game, your team will resolve the threats, removing them from the pool and adding new threats to take their place. Generally, you should always have a number of threats equal to the number of people you have playing the game, but sometimes people fall a bit behind on creating threats if the game is moving quickly. Once they're all written, you're ready to start Act 1. I would say I probably would just shuffle that deck, because otherwise you know your one's coming next, I guess, so it'd be nice not to know which one is coming next, I think, personally. Alright. And creating great threats. Here we go. So creating a great threat has 3 elements. It's immediate, it's local, and it's non-negotiable. Again, we'll make that bigger or highlight that. So make sure that the threat will kill the crew now. Starvation is not a good threat. An alien tracks being is about to tear the ship apart is a much better threat. It is local, so make sure it's a direct danger to the crew. A child that's in danger 40 miles away is sad, but it's not a good threat. If that child has superhuman strength, was controlled by aliens, and attempted to kill the team, he would be the perfect threat. Okay. It is non-negotiable. Make sure the threat is determined to end the mission, regardless of what the characters say or do. Vampires are bad threats. You can talk your way out if you're quick or clever. Have you ever talked to vampires? They are pretty clever. Zombies are awesome threats because you can't bargain with them. They want to eat your brains. I don't know how true that is. Many threats start off a little bit weak. It can be made better with just 1 or 2 quick changes. Ask yourself when you make a threat, is this immediate, local, or non-negotiable? And if the answer to only one of those things is a negative, try to make it work. Starvation, for example, is a weak threat because it is not immediate enough for the characters to be concerned about it. There's a good chance they can complete the plan without food, but at its core, starvation is getting at a need that the characters could derail the mission. If we swap out the food for air, I was about to say oxygen would probably be a better one here, to make the effects more immediate, turning starvation into rapidly depleting oxygen supplies is a much better threat that emerges. Yeah. Okay, advanced mission prep. After you've played our last bit. Oh. It's just giving you some things if you don't want to do all that preparation. You might want to try some variants. So here's some variants. We skip the mission. The playsets are incredibly useful for generating ideas, crises, threats, and assets. Also limits, I think. They're not required to play the game. If there is a setting you want to play in, especially if there's another role-playing game setting, feel free to go the mission to go reach without the mission. You might have some ideas for different settings that fit the game perfectly. Your group is bursting at the seams with crises, threats, and plans without needing a mission. Roll with it. If the session goes well, think of writing up a mission based on it and send it over to us. Yeah, I guess so. Ooh. Again, I appreciate it doesn't really say anything about like third-party content licensing or anything like that. Again, maybe that's something they would consider in the future if you were writing your own missions and stuff. Additional roles. If you'd like additional roles to be added to the game, so like psychologists, pilots, or other undefined roles, you'll need to add a new mechanic for the new role, so for that story mechanic thing. Most roles deal directly with the number of dice a player can roll, but there are other mechanical benefits that you can select when designing the new role, such as allowing other players to activate their powers for free or avoiding harm. The rest of the rules for character creation remain the same, as touchstones, death cards, and story cards are the same for all the roles. So that's quite nice, it's quite straightforward, there's nothing new about each of the playbooks per se. When designing a new role, be thoughtful as to whether or not a new role is actually needed. Many new roles are really just soldier, doctors, scientists, or engineers with a bit of an unconventional twist, i.e. a surgeon is just a doctor with a bit more specific title. Dynamic, different characters are exactly the kinds of characters your group would already be building, and you might not need a new role to make the twist work. Agreed. What is that? Are they wearing some sort of weird dress? Weird. Alright, and that goes on to Act 2. Fair enough. I don't think we're going to have time. It's only 10 minutes and I do have to leave on the hour. Which is a shame. I've enjoyed this so far. We're about halfway through, I think. What we're on. I'm just trying to find out what page we're on. 67. That's actually not too bad for us. About halfway through. So I guess from what we've read so far, let's have a think, shall we? I do like the cover of the book. This is not the cover of the book, unfortunately. I like the idea of it. I like the tone of it. It's something that I like as someone who. It's basically like the game designer's commentary on how to run this game, but might not be appropriate as like a first time playing the game per se. It doesn't feel as structured. Like I wish the format was a little bit stronger in terms of making things bold or putting things in boxes per se. I think it's very readable though. Like I was able to get through nearly 70 pages of stuff. I do think quite a lot of these pages, there's some blank, again, maybe it's some interesting design stuff, but there's like, blank, like full page art, which is just silhouettes, which is fine. I don't think that would pass nowadays. I do think that this big gap at the top has impacted quite a few of those other pages, which again, you could keep some of that information on the same page. Like here, look at this, it makes it much bigger, that's quite nice. But then we lose it here. Like this, yeah, I don't know. I think if that had gone at the top of what is role playing, and then a few more little bits of like boxes and a little bit layout, that this whole could be in one page perhaps, and then having some more artwork, like full page art of some sort on this side. I do not get that hand. Don't get the hand at all. I love this idea of the 3 big questions. I'm gonna see if I can find that particular design post. It might not be. I don't know if LiveJournal is around anymore. I love this idea, and then using them to speak about the game. Reminds me a lot of like the structure. I know I always talk about Jason Cordova and Brindlewood Bay. But I do like the idea of structuring out like this is what the game is. Here's the the cat sort of thing. So the concept, aim, is it themes and safety? I think that's what it is. So I like that. I like answering those questions straight off the bat. That's exciting. Feels more answering me like who's interested in game design, that sort of thing, rather than to the players. But again, you could take this sort of script and make it into like, and you're reading it out to an audience or to the players. It's sort of thing you would take. Also, yeah, and I also quite like the idea of like what the mechanic is. I'm not sure about the word punish though. To be honest with you, I don't like. You shouldn't be punishing people in your games. You should have consequences. Yeah, there's lots of big gaps here. I like the idea of the story points, using them and then adding more dice and having that almost like fiasco-like roll to it. I think that was, I do like that. Again, appreciate we've not got through Acts 1 or 2 to understand what that is, but I think we've got a good idea set up. I really like this idea of the dice notation stuff. I wish it was implemented properly throughout so that we have like actually, because again, these icons are not alt text readable, and I think this is quite a cool thing to have so that anyone who, for whatever reason, if the images of the dice doesn't scroll up, doesn't display, you at least know what they are saying. So I really like this. I think that's really good. Yeah, I think my biggest gripe, which I appreciate, it's a very hard one to do for a game that is over a decade old. I love the idea of the QR code and having a link on the website. You need to make sure those links are sustainable and updated. Like the fact I went and found those videos on YouTube, and yeah, okay, they're over 11 years old. I get that. If someone was really struggling, if they wanted to play this game for the first time, they're looking for these things. You need to make any sort of accessible way or anything to help you run this game. Important. Like make it easier. And they clearly did at one point, and it's just maybe this again. They've remade the website since it came out. That's my biggest gripe, because this is on many pages as well, and some of the links do link off to Magpie website, but doesn't go to anything. I'm actually gonna go to it now. That's there. I'm looking at the wrong page. Wrong one. But yeah, that's where you can get the videos from. But if I go to the Magpie website, can't even spell Magpie. There you go. That's where you can get it on here. But as you say, this item is currently out of stock in US and Canada. We'll be restocking it in the summer of 2024. But I hope that means they're going to have a rewrite of it at some point, because I think there's some really good ideas in here. I really like it. I think my other play materials here. Oh, wait, hang on. No, that's not it. It's Magpie Classic. Okay. I wanted to see standalone games. It's not. Oh, there's something here. Can't find it. Okay, fine. For reasons it is not there. That's what we're looking at next. Is the Blazer thing, which I'm very excited for. And then my final little gripe is that they talk about this drilling to the center of the Earth to restart its mortal core, which I think is a cracking idea. I really like that. I'm like, ooh, yes. It makes me think of those classic films like Journey to the Center of the Earth, all that sort of thing. Or Dante's Peak, all that sort of thing. But it's not one of the missions that comes with the core book. We have space, we have zombies, and snow. And I'm like, I don't know. I guess, yeah, each to their own. That's the only thing I'd say. But yeah, you can get the PDF on Drive for RPG, which I would recommend. Yeah. But I think overall, I definitely would come back to this. I definitely think this would be a good, if it is as short as you say it is, it is 2 hours for 5 people. That's pretty good, I think. But I definitely think that you definitely have the facilitator having to do some stuff. So I definitely would read a bit more. And it was, like I said, it was an easy read, and I'm very glad we got through it. But thank you so much for bearing with me, and I'm sorry we didn't get to the end of it. I actually did quite enjoy this. But let me go back to the big Fiona screen and do the sign off. So, thank you so much for joining me. If you have enjoyed this, I will put a link to the RPG so people can have a look at it. For some reason the YouTube is not. Is it stopped on YouTube? No, it's still going. Nightbot is not posting anymore. Great, thanks, Nightbot. I will have to look at that in a second. Why is that so frustrating? Anyway, what was I going to say? If people are interested in learning some more stuff, check out Where. So what am I rolling? Which is my go-to podcast channel. It's one of the podcasts I do, which looks at different RPGs and something to this, but we either run them. We talk to game designers about their work, which has always been really, really interesting. I also run the DM's Book Club, which you can check out if you like. I only care about D&D. We do a weekly book club about D&D lore and talk about how we can improve it and make it accessible for everyone. We read the books so that you don't have to. And if folks are interested, give me a second. I'm going to find it now. I was delighted to say that I have been nominated for a Crit Award. She says, trying to find it. I don't want a ticket to it. I want to do the voting thing. I've been nominated for Best Podcast Host, which is a delight. I'm very, very delighted to have that. What I will say is that I'm in a very strong category. It's going to be very tough. So if people are interested, please hang on. Vote for Fiona in the Crit Awards 2024 Best Podcast Host. try that. Please consider voting for me in it. There's loads of other categories which you can have a look through. You don't have to vote in all of them, I'd say. But obviously, once you voted, that is it. So do take time to look at them. There's some cracking ones, certainly for the solo RPGs. So please go check them out. And it's just nice to have a little bit of recognition for some of the work I do. I appreciate, like, people that maybe don't see RPGs as they see it more as a hobby rather than maybe a livelihood or anything like that. But I do think they are so important. And it's just nice to be able to talk about how good they are, and if more people should play it. And it gives us that sort of creativity and stuff like that. So it's a delight to have been nominated. So if you feel like it, please do go and check it out and vote. And then I'm in the best podcast host channel. Category. That's the word. Category. So please go check that out. Right. The final thing to say is that we'll be back on Thursday for. Says try and bloody look. We'll be back for the Place the Thing. So another Magpie Games one. Which I'm very excited. It's a Shakespearean thing, I think. Let me read it. The Place the Thing is a storytelling game about actors who want to rewrite Shakespearean roles they've been given. You and your friends tell the story of an acting troupe that is scheduled to perform a new play, but has had a lot of disagreements about how that play should go. Whilst the playwright might present you with a classic Shakespearean folio, you'll use your imaginations and wit to craft new events and excitement in old stories. That sounds great. I'm really looking forward to that. So please come and check this out on Thursday. We'll be there here, 11 a.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. BST, and check that out. And then finally this week we do have one on Friday still, which is going to be Eat the Reich. We're going to look at Eat the Reich. I think I'm going to see which version I've got. Probably the quick start. Thank you so much, team. I very much appreciate it. I don't know why my YouTube chat is gone, but I'm sure Nightbot has done something, so we'll see. Anyway, thank you so much, and I will speak to you soon. I'm going to find the big off-screen button, and I'm going to wave and say goodbye for now. Bye!